Hello, hello, my people. Buenas tardes, buenas noches, buenos días, wherever you're listening to us. Welcome to Chancleta Generation Podcast. Hello, everyone. As you know, I am Clemencia Herrera, and I am the founder of Moira Studio, which is an advertising agency that specializes in communicating with Latinos in the U.S. And as I mentioned in the last episode, hopefully you listened to that because you should. We're continuing to talk about pressing issues that Latinos are facing right now as things keep evolving with a new administration. So one thing I want to say is that we are still here. We are Latinos. Nobody's changing that, no matter what laws come into effect or what people say. We have brought so many good things to this country, and we belong here. So who better to take a deep dive into this topic than Dario Collado from the Hispanic Heritage Foundation. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Un placer.
Un placer. So, Dario Collado is the Vice President of Strategic Development for the Hispanic Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. since May 2016. Established by the White House in 1987, the Hispanic Heritage Foundation identifies, inspires, and promotes and prepares Latino leaders through national leadership, cultural, educational, and workforce programs. He is in charge of planning and fundraising the annual Hispanic Heritage Award, a star-studded event held every September, and considered by many the most prestigious awards given out during Hispanic Heritage Month. Prior to being this awesome vice president doing awesome things, he worked as a corporate development officer, spearheading Latino affairs at Boston Children's Hospital, and as a program manager and one of the creators of the Latino Leadership Initiative at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. The U.S. Latino Fellowship, as it's now known, is a $20 million endowed fellowship at HKS, born out of these efforts for those seeking their graduate degrees, targeted at students of Latino descent or those who want to serve the Latino community. This is the only fellowship of its kind at any of the Ivy League schools. Impressive.
Thank you so much.
I mean, you have been working towards the betterment of the Latino community for a while, and I love all of this work. You have a lot more, but I'll be here for another hour reading what you've been doing. As I said earlier, Hispanic heritage is in danger right now, or at least the recognition of it.
I would say that, being Latino, what it means, what it signifies, obviously for our community, right now is being challenged, right, by a new administration that is trying to, remake history. I think it's more important than ever that we continue to exemplify what our culture is, and where we're going moving forward. Clemencia. So I'm excited. Obviously the work does continue, but it's more important than ever now to really let people know what being what Latinidad really means for folks.
Yeah, and so I want to kind of take a little bit of a deep dive into why. I mean, I know why it's important to recognize Hispanic heritage, but I'd like to get your take on why it's important. What is it that because you do the fundraising, so you probably need to do this pitch a lot, right? To get people to fork over the money, you probably need to tell them why this is important. Why it's important to recognize Latinos? Why is it important to give those awards? Why it's important to remember Hispanic heritage? And it's not just about Hispanic Heritage Month and the typical cliche thing that people do.
I mean, look, we're a community that contributes over $3 trillion to the United States economy. We're a community that is extremely prideful of what we do, of the work that we do, and things of that nature. And I think it's important for people to understand and know the sacrifices that have been made. We're a community that helped essentially build this entire country, as Latinos. And then so those are things that obviously cannot be erased. And then those are things that essentially we have to, remind folks of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like one thing is, living here and, adjusting yourself to, life in the US. And another thing is assimilating and completely forgetting about where you come from.
Yeah. I mean, that's important. I think, studies have shown that second, third, fourth generational Latinos, start losing the language, for example, but obviously they still understand and they appreciate where their ancestors are from. Mm-hmm. I think that it's just important as a community to continue to strive for greatness. Obviously, you mentioned in the work that we do at HHF and my prior work at Harvard and in Boston's Children's Hospital in the past. I think when the Latino community is doing well, we do well as a country. And that's something that is very important, not only to me, obviously, personally and professionally, but I think it's very important to just continue to let people know that we are here and we're not going anywhere. And that's just
I mean, I see it all the time and I hear it in conversations all the time, with Anglo people. They're so proud of like their German ancestors or their Italian family, like the nonna and like, their family recipe and also like, I'm Scottish or I'm Irish, I'm 20% this and 50% that. And it's like, yeah, that's great. That's awesome that you're so proud of your heritage. Why is it that we can't do that? We can't do that too. Why can't we be like, I'm 50% Ecuadorian and 20% Argentinian and I have my abuelita who had this recipe, blah blah blah. It's the same thing. What's so different about us?
I mean, I just think that overall, I think as Latinos, we're a growing influence. And I think that for some folks, that scares them, right? And I think that as a community, when we come together as Dominicans, Colombians, Puerto Rican, Mexicans, there is power in those numbers. I mean, I do want to live long enough to see a Latina or a Latino in the White House. I think that would be a beautiful moment for us as a community. And I think that person, whether it's a he or a she, could really do some incredible work, for a country that, we're looking to unify, I think, long term.
Yeah. And I mean, we've done some episodes here in this podcast about Latinos being very divided, and it's been going on for a while. Like there's some rivals between like some countries and there's also there's colorism, among the Latino community. There's classism. There's even like, those are like immigrants and then I'm not an immigrant, or I am a better immigrant, or I'm a whiter immigrant, or like, do we really come on guys, we have bigger fish to fry, which is, I don't know, our rights being taken away, or our families being affected economically,
Sure.
job security, food security. There's so many things that we could be worrying about besides, what kind of immigrant we are, or what the color of our skin is, or what country we come from, if we speak Spanish or not, if we have an accent or not. Like, come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, a lot of Latinos, I want to say over 55% of Latino men voted for Trump. And you're looking slowly at, CPS being taken away for Venezuelans, for example. Many Venezuelans voted for Trump. Cubans.
Yeah, which is a legal procedure, right? Seeking asylum is a legal immigration process. Legal.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think people are starting to realize that, like, wow, this is maybe not in the best direction of myself or my folks or my family.
Yeah, unions are also being dilapidated, and there's a lot of Latinos that belong in unions because we do a lot of labor work, like manual labor, construction. Yeah,
you're seeing a lot of these industries that are being slowed down because a lot of folks either not working, have gotten deported, or are afraid in this current political climate that we live in. So it's going to be really interesting how this plays out in the next 2 to 4 years.
Yeah, I think that's it's kind of funny because I was thinking about this ahead of our recording, and to me, Hispanic heritage, like Latino heritage, does mean the power of community.
Of course.
Like us as Latinos, if we just think about like the small scale, we're not even thinking about big like protests or anything like that. It's more like in our neighborhoods, during Christmas, we open our doors, the neighbors come in, we have like, big family celebrations. It's always a big community thing. Like we always are there for each other. We have big families, we have multi-generational houses. And it's like, sometimes it's like, oh, we just add more water to the soup and 5 more people can eat. So where is it that we've lost this sense of community or this sense of brotherhood or this sense of like caring about each other? There was somewhere in the middle we lost that, and we've become more like individualists and kind of like also like fighting for like crumbs when we could actually have the big chunk of the pie. There's so many like things that are just not making sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at in totality, like the communities, I think that's part of kind of the game plan, right? To try to separate folks instead of bringing them together, so that we can have power in numbers. Mm-hmm. I do think that many of us come from these different countries that are dictatorships. For example, I know the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and others.
Yeah.
So a lot of that political play, kind of comes into plays in today's political view.
Yeah, sadly, and I think like we were talking about. What is it that is needed? Like, what do we need right now as a community to like move forward, be united? What is it that we need? What do we need more of?
No, that's a good question. I think and that's something that I've struggled with in the past. I think that who are our political leaders, for example. Who's the Latino Barack Obama that's coming up? Obviously, he makes a lot of noise, but is there anybody else, right? I know that there's a new senator, Ruben Gallego from Arizona. Is he going to be a power player, right? Are the Castro brothers, are they still going to be power players in this new political climate? So it's going to be really interesting. I do think that in the next year, I would love to see maybe 1 or 2, political folks kind of, rise up and join and kind of go against the resistance, and potentially run for office on a national scale. I think that could be really interesting in how that plays out. But who are those folks? And I think as Latinos, we ask ourselves that, right?
Yeah.
We have, CEOs here and there that are, Cesar Condes of the world that are doing like incredible work within the business community. But it's something that I think we've struggled with on the political aspect. And I think as a community, I think we should all come together and say, hey, let's identify 3 or 4 folks that can get to that level, and let's support them.
Yeah.
You know, I was just at an event last week, Dominicans on the Hill, where they bring hundreds of top Dominican leaders from all across the country, put together by the only Dominican in the United States Congress, Dario Collado. And I was looking around and I was like, this is really interesting because there's power in community and there's power in numbers, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to some Dominican leaders from across the country, and I said, why is there only one of us in the United States Congress? Like, what can we do to change that?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, okay, how can we, fundraise? Because you need, $1.5 million, $2 million to run for a congressional seat.
Yeah.
Obviously for a Senate seat. But what can we do as a community to try to maybe raise those numbers to 2 or 3? Like the Cuban American community that has a plethora of national leaders. And I think that's something that we those are conversations that we should be having, and obviously in safe spaces.
Yeah.
I think those are conversations that we need to continue to amplify. If our communities, especially communities of color, are going to have a larger impact.
Yeah. I mean, you just said it. We bring $3 trillion to this economy. If we can't fundraise for our own people with $3 trillion, I don't even know what we're doing. Yeah. I mean, this is the largest GDP than it's like the 5th largest GDP in the world. We definitely can fundraise. However, we have been, and I'm saying we because I am part of this group.
Sure.
There's a lot of us that have been like, I'm just gonna put my head down and, just work, do my hard work. This whole hard work thing, it's like really killing us here because I'm just gonna put my head down and work hard and pretend that nothing is happening so I don't get called out to do something, or I don't get called out, and get in trouble. And this has gotten us to this place. Yeah. And so we need to do something different. We need to get our heads up, not look down anymore, look up and take some action and actually say, maybe one person can get in trouble, but if there's millions of us, we're not going to get in trouble. It's too hard. It's too hard to get so many people in trouble. And it's just as simple as donating. Latinos historically do not donate to campaigns. Yeah. It's really hard to get. I mean, I know there's people struggling, but sometimes those people that we get elected and that we support, they help us out. Yeah. And we had a California councilwoman on our show a couple of years ago, and she was talking about how it's Latinos in power that actually create laws that benefit Latinos, and even women, Latina women. Only Latina women actually work towards things that benefit other Latina women. And so it's like, if you really want to change things, we gotta get one of us up there.
Yeah, I mean, but that has to be part, I think, of the national conversation, right? Like I said earlier, who are the folks on that national platform that we can all support collectively?
Yeah.
We're not gonna, we're not all going to agree on everything. Yeah. But we can agree on most things. And I think that as Latinos, we're very conservative to some degree. Mm-hmm. We have we have religious beliefs that kind of play into the politics. So what are 90, what can we agree on for 90% of things? Yeah. And then kind of go from there, I'm telling you, it's going to be really interesting, especially whoever runs for president the next cycle. Yeah. Right? Is it going to be a woman? Is it going to be a man? Is it going to be Latina? Is it going to be African American? But I think those conversations start now.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have to, in light of everything that's going on politically, we have to identify who that person or those folks, whether it's 2 or 3 that run together, who they are, and we have to support them.
Yeah, definitely. And so, some of these things, some of these subjects feel really far detached from like people's everyday lives. We're talking about Latino political leaders, those are like very, it just feels like super far away from people. All of these laws that are like executive orders that are happening that just feel like, I feel like a lot of people are feeling a little impotent, like they're not able to do anything about it. I'd love to brainstorm and like maybe leave people with some sort of something that they can do that feels like they're getting some power back, because what I've definitely been feeling is that there's disempowerment, even more disempowerment, because it's just like things are happening to me. There's nothing I can do about it. And I just need to sit here and let things happen to me. What is it that people can do so they can feel like they are getting a little bit of power back? And also, what can people do even if they're like, decimating, Hispanic heritage as a concept? I mean, the Hispanic Heritage Month is not recognized anymore. So it's like, what can we do to like, still recognize it on our own? It doesn't matter what the government says.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's a very loaded question, actually. I think call your congressional members, let them know how you feel about certain topics. Obviously, there's a lot of, shock and awe with this new administration. In the first month, there's obviously a lot of these executive actions are not going to get through the courts, but they are still going to have an effect on people, right? So I think people should just call the congressional members, let them know how they feel, and speak out, right? I think that a lot of people are speaking out and are fighting back. So that's slowing the decisions that this new administration is trying to make, whether good or bad, right? And I think that it's important for people to have a support system, right? So, create your little Facebook group, like 5 to 6, 7 friends is a good number, or a WhatsApp group, right? That you can kind of like bounce different ideas off of. I think that's important, right? I also think that it's important for folks just to know that they still have a voice.
Yeah.
Because everything that's happening, and it's happening so quickly, there is a sense of hopelessness that you're like, oh man, but I'm just one person. Like I'm not, I think there's value in community.
Yeah.
And then people can never forget that.
Yeah. And what do you, where do you guys see Hispanic heritage going in the next 4 years?
I mean, look, I think obviously we do the Hispanic Heritage Awards at the Hispanic Heritage Foundation. We're going to continue to do the Hispanic Heritage Awards, whether at the Kennedy Center or somewhere else. I think this year is important more than ever to really recognize our community, right? I think, and that's what I mean, like, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep fundraising with different corporate donors. We have to continue to fight and let folks know that celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month is important, right? Recognizing our people is important.
Yeah.
You look at somebody like Bad Bunny, right? And what he's done for our culture, and how he's put Puerto Rico on the map.
Yeah.
That's very important. Like, we need more examples of and individuals of that magnitude that can really, that can really show what the power in our community, and where it comes from.
Yeah. In Bad Bunny, he bases his music on culture that existed for a really long time.
Of course, absolutely.
Like reggaeton was not invented by Bad Bunny. I remember listening to reggaeton in like the 90s because I had a Puerto Rican friend that came with a tape, and he was like, "Oh, this is like some new like street music that just came up," and it's from the 90s.
Yeah.
And now the new album that he came up with has like merengue and has some salsa in it. This is all part of Hispanic heritage. And modern artists are always taking from the past and repurposing it. But that's why it's so important to preserve heritage and culture and identity. You know, salsa was created here in the United States. It was born here of New Yorkers.
Yeah.
And it was a mix of jazz and mambo and like other like Latin flavors. And it was created here. We can't forget that. We can't let anyone forget that. This is a music that has transcended the world. Like do you remember that Japanese band that used to play salsa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Course, yeah.
So it's like there's people dancing salsa across the world, and it was created here. It's like we need to really think about preserving where we come from, what we've done. We can't let that disappear.
Yeah, and I think this year more than ever, it's important for us to kind of exemplify and honor our culture, right? Because otherwise, if you let Hispanic Heritage Month go away, people are going to forget the sacrifices that have been made by Latinos from around the world, And it's funny you mentioned salsa in Japan. Like, I've listened to bachata in Istanbul, Turkey.
Yeah.
Aventura's played going from Greece to Turkey on a boat. Like, it just goes to show you, I've, listened to merengue in Israel.
Yeah.
Right? So it just goes to show you that music transcends cultures, and it's very important. Like we have to continue to just show love and support these artists like the Bad Bunnies and others, Karol G's and others, because they're really putting our culture on a map. Yeah.
Yeah. And I recently went to I was in Medellin, and we went to the Botero Museum. And, it's not just music, but it's also the arts. Like Botero has influenced so many artists now. And, some of also the muralists from Mexico, they influence so many people here and across the world. We have to remember that. There's inventors that either were in Latin America or they were here when they've come up with so many different patents. We have to remember this. We have to remember our history, because if we don't do it for ourselves, nobody else will. And it's the same thing with, claiming our rights. It's the same thing with coming together to claim our place at the table here, because if nobody's gonna come and get that for us, we have to do it ourselves. Let's stop putting our heads down and just working hard and hoping for the best. Get up, look up, check out what's going on, and let's do something together.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, again, we have to figure out how to continue to work together, right? This whole, I'm Boricua, I'm Dominican, or I'm Cuban, or I'm Mexican. Like, we have to stop that. We have to come together and say, hey, what are some of the things that bind us?
Exactly.
Right? We have more that brings us together than takes us apart, as a community, especially.
Yeah, we do have so many traditions that are similar, values that are similar, and there's a lot of common ground. And now more than ever, we need each other.
Yeah, and you start realizing that that it's community is important. It's so important, right? Especially now, because we have to come together as a community, right? Mm-hmm. We can't let some of these political decisions kind of tear us apart as a community. Because it's at the end of the day, like that's the only thing that you have, right?
Exactly. The only thing that we have at the end of the day is our support system. It's the people that we love, that love us. And we can't let families break apart because of political ideals. The important thing is to be together and be there for each other, because we don't know what's gonna come. We need to have our support system.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been a month, so it's going to be interesting how these next 4 years play out.
Yeah. Interesting is an interesting word.
Very much so.
All right. Well, that is the time that we have for today. Thank you, Dario, for sharing your knowledge and your motivation to keep things alive. And I hope people walked away with a little bit of ways that you could get some power back, that you don't have to feel so at the mercy of the currents. And I wanna Dario, is there anything that you guys got going on? Do you want to share your social media handles, like any kind of resource for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram is Dario Collado, DarioCollado 1. My LinkedIn is Dario Collado. Feel free to to follow. And I think my last message would be to people: don't lose hope. Right? I think that's one thing. I think Barack Obama had said it best. Hope is like that one thing that we still have as a community to kind of bind us. And I think that la gente just continue to fight, right? Don't let none of this political nonsense kind of get to you. Maybe stop watching a little bit less news, because it'll consume you. Mm-hmm. But people just have to go out there and just fight every day. Because I see that's at the end of the day, that's all we have.
Yeah. Yeah. All we've known is fighting all our lives. That's all we've done.
Absolutely. And as a community, that we're good at that.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it feels sometimes that we're like in the fight of our lives, and this is one of those. This is one of those big ones. The fight for preserving who we are and to get that seat at the table, because we belong here.
Yeah, and then never forget that this is our moment. We do belong here, like you said, and we just have to continue to fight. That's all we have at the end of the day.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, Dario. You guys,
thank you.
If you are feeling down and some of your friends are feeling down and you want to share this with them just to get them a little bit of hope, please share. Please give us a rating. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm Clem at chancletageneration.com. And you can still find us on Instagram, Chancleta Generation, TikTok, Chancleta Generation. There's no more X, for obvious reasons. And so if you like this podcast, please share with your friends, give us a rating, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.